How technology might be about to kill us. Is technology really about to kill us all? Some experts seem to think so. They point to the increasing number of cyber attacks, the potential for weaponized artificial intelligence, and the ever-growing list of gadgets that can be hacked as evidence that we're on the brink of a technological apocalypse. But is this really the end of the world as we know it? Or are we just overreacting to a few isolated incidents? Hey guys, welcome to Techverse. Today we are going to talk about how technology might be about to kill us. So stay with us till the end of the video so you don't miss out on any of this information. But before we proceed, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of our beautiful videos in the future. And let's get started. In some ways, the predictions were overly gloomy. Technology really has made great leaps and bounds in the past 16 years, nowhere more clearly than AI. Artificial intelligence brains simply cannot manage change in unpredictable events, why robots would be improbable to interact with humans anytime soon. Fundamentally, it's just very difficult to get a robot to tell the difference between a picture of a tree and a real tree. And Paul Newman, then and now a robotics expert at Oxford University, told Adams. Happily, Newman proved his own negativity to be unwarranted in 2014 as he co-founded Oxbotica, which has optimistically solved the problem he mentioned, as it makes and sells driverless car technology to vehicle manufacturers around the world. If we move on from agonizing over detail, there are two key points at which the 2020 forecast falls apart, one about tech and the other about society. Gadget lovers could use a single keypad to utilize their phone and MP3 music player, or combine the output of their watch, pager, and radio into a single speaker. The idea of greater consolidation and connectivity between personal electronics was correct, but there was a very specific hole in this forecast: the smartphone. After a half a century of single-purpose consumer electronics, it was difficult to discern how all-encompassing a single device could become. But just 3 years after Adams published his piece, the iPhone launched and swapped everything. Forget carrying around a separate MP3 player. In the real 2020s, people are not even carrying separate cameras, wallets, or car keys. Failing to foresee the smartphone is an oversight of the progress of technology. But the other missing point is about how society would answer to the changing forces. The 2004 predictions are basically optimistic. Adams writes about biometric healthcare data being transmitted to your doctor's computer, about washing machines that arrange their own servicing based on availability in your electronic organizer, and radio frequency recognition chips on your clothes that trigger customized adverts or program your phone based on where you are. And through it all, it is an assurance that these changes will be good and the companies making them well-intentioned. There is a loss of privacy. It's going to be very difficult for people, and we've not figured out how to deal with that. One of Adams's interviewees revealed when describing the technology in 2020. But if you explain what it does, how much information it gives, and where it goes, and that the trade-off is that you do not have to wait as long in line at the supermarket, then people will take the trade-off. In fact, over the past decade and a half, the extensive majority of people were simply never given the choice to accept the trade-off, and it is progressively clear that many of them never would have if they had understood what was at risk. If The Guardian missed the advent of the smartphone in spite of writing just 3 years before the launch of the iPhone, how can we possibly do better today looking 10 times forward? The world of 2050 will be extraordinarily different in many ways, even if we can safely assume people will still generally have 2 arms, 2 legs, and an irksome smell if they don't wash for long periods of time. But there are forces working in our favor. The internet is far more established now than it was in 2004, and while its chaotic effect on our lives shows no sign of subsiding, it is at least predictably unpredictable. Similarly, smartphone proliferation in the West is now as high as it looks likely to go. However, the world changes over the next 30 years. It would not be as a result of more Britons or Americans getting phones. Other predictions can be as simple as following trend lines to their logical closure. By 2050, the switch over to electric cars will have mostly finished, at least in developed nations, as well as in those expanding nations such as China that are starting to prioritize air quality over cheap mechanization. The next billion will be online, mostly through low-cost smartphones receiving progressively ubiquitous cellular connections. But what they do on the internet is harder to guess. In 2020, there are 2 contracting trends at work, and on the one hand, providers, principally Facebook, have been trying to use subsidized deals to push newly connected nations onto stripped-down versions of the internet. If they succeed at scale, then many of the welfare of the web will be stolen from whole nations, decreasing instead of being passive participants in Facebook and a few local media and payment companies. But pushback from national selectors in place such as India and from competing carriers could bring the new nations to the real internet instead. Unless that's national regulators push in a different direction, copying China, Iran, and Russia to keep Facebook out by building an entirely nationalistic internet. How better to make sure that the benefits of the web ensue domestically, the reason than by BRIDLE your citizens use homegrown services. And if it makes it easier to impose censorship, well, that's just another benefit. James BRIDLE, the author of the unsettling book New Dark Age, points out that the discussion cannot lose sight of who the next billion actually are. He said that I keep thinking about the way the tech industry talks about the next billion users without admitting that those people are going to be hot, wet, and pissed off, and we are only talking about hardening borders rather than preparing socially, politically, and technologically for this reality. Because if we are guessing the future from basic trend lines, there's another one that we need to acknowledge: the climate. The particulars of what will change are not for this piece, but the human response very much is. One possibility is Plan A. Humanity in time reaches net zero when it comes to releasing. In that scenario, we will live in a world where plant proteins replace meat in everyday utilization, where electrically powered networked mass transit extends into the suburbs and beyond, a world of video conferencing and remote attendance regularly chipping away at business flights and insulation inside the walls of homes. If Plan A fails, then there's a chance we turn to Plan B. That is a world in which mega-scale injections of SO2 into the stratosphere turn the heavens white, and a whole generation never sees a clean blue sky in order to reflect more of the sun's rays and stop the greenhouse effect. It is one in which we turn on enormous processing plants that do nothing but extract carbon dioxide from the air and pump it underground into disused oil wells. It's one in which whole cities are abandoned and populations relocated to avoid the worst effects we can't prevent. Plan B geoengineering is neither optimistic nor negative about the future of humanity, says Holly Jean Buck, who is the author of After Geoengineering. The worst thing would be we fail Plan A and Plan B both. Right now it is toned down, I think because of people not wishing to talk about it. We do not have the body of knowledge and we would need 20 or 30 years to develop it. Right about mid-century means it will be a crunch point. Climate change will really be evident by then. But for Buck, as for BRIDLE, the distinctions that really matter are not necessarily the technology. The choices around whether we have an acceptable future or a dystopian one are about social attitudes and social changes. Right now, we are in the era of stopgaps. Society used to be able to make a long-term plan, people built long-term infrastructure, and thought a bit beyond. That is not something that happens now. We go to immediate fixes. We need a cultural change in values to enable more intentional decision-making. And that's it for today's video, guys. We sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click on the like button and make sure you share it with your friends and family. If you have any questions or comments for us, make sure you share them down below in the comment space. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll see even more of our incredible videos. You can also check out our other videos that have been specially selected just for you. Hey, we thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for watching our video and hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll catch up with you in our next video. And our next